It started the moment you realized the world doesn't break you in one clean strike. It does it quietly, through 1,000 small cuts that bleed in silence. You didn't fall because you were weak. You fell because you believed loyalty meant safety. You stood beside those who smiled while sharpening their knives behind your back. You trusted the applause, not realizing it was thunder before the storm. Now you stand in the ruins of everything you thought would last, and for the first time, the shadows have stopped moving. It's as if they've been waiting for you, to see who you become without the mask, without the noise, without the illusion of being loved. You feel it in your chest, a stillness too heavy to describe. Not grief, not rage, something colder, something ancient, the kind of silence that exists right before transformation. You look down at your hands and they're not trembling anymore. The blood on your knuckles isn't from defeat, it's from awakening. Because when you lose everything, the game resets. No more illusion. No more pretending to be good enough for a world that thrives on betrayal. The shadows around you seem to watch, not with pity, but with recognition, as if they've seen this before. A soul finally stripped of mercy, staring into the void and refusing to blink. You remember their words, the laughter, the whispers, how quickly they replaced you, erased you, buried you beneath their comfort zone. But the funny thing about ashes, they don't stay still forever. You start to move again, slow, deliberate, dangerous. Each breath feels like a declaration of war, not against them, but against the version of yourself that once begged for validation. The streetlight above flickers, and in that moment, you realize something terrifying. The darkness isn't chasing you anymore, it's following you, obeying. Because power doesn't roar, it remembers. You think of every time you broke and stitched yourself back together with trembling hands. Every night you stared into your own reflection, searching for something worth saving. You didn't know it then, but that reflection was waiting for this moment, for the silence after the chaos, for the storm to pass and reveal what was forged beneath it. The shadows have stopped moving because they know the order has shifted. They know you no longer fear what hides within them. You've become it, the quiet force that watches, learns, endures. There's no more audience now, no applause, no betrayal left to fear, only you and the sound of your own heartbeat, slow and steady, like a drum announcing something inevitable. You don't speak, you don't need to. The air already understands. The night bends slightly around you, recognizing its new center. You are no longer the broken one. You are the fracture that became the fault line. And as you take your first step forward, even the darkness stays still, because it finally remembers who owns it. The nights became heavier after that, not darker, just heavier, like the air itself had learned how to press down on your chest. You stopped speaking as much because words no longer felt like weapons. They were useless in a world that had already chosen to misunderstand you. People still laughed, moved, posted, lived, but you. You sat in the silence between their noise. The world kept spinning, but yours froze on that night when everything you trusted slipped through your hands. You didn't lose just an opportunity or a dream. You lost belief. And when belief dies, the soul doesn't scream. It whispers, asking if it was ever real to begin with. You walk through days like a ghost rehearsing for disappearance. Every reflection looked unfamiliar. Every mirror held an accusation. Sleep came, but it didn't rest you. It stalked you. You'd close your eyes and faces would appear. Not human faces. Faces made of memory, regret, and the words you didn't say when you should have. The betrayal didn't come with a knife, it came with silence. The kind that seeps into your bones until even your heartbeat sounds guilty. That's when you realize the world doesn't destroy you in grand explosions. It erodes you slowly through small humiliations, broken trust, and the ache of being unseen. Your strength didn't vanish, it just turned inward, locked behind walls you built to survive. You smiled less, not because you hated life, but because life had stopped earning the right to see your real smile. The shadow of who you used to be followed you everywhere, but it no longer moved with you. It waited, watched, mocked. There's something terrifying about knowing you can't even trust your own reflection, that even your silence has started keeping secrets from you. You began to understand why ancient warriors trained in solitude, because the real enemy has always lived inside. There were moments, quiet, distorted moments, where you almost broke through, when you'd feel a pulse of something beneath the numbness, but fear would crush it instantly. Fear of starting again, fear of trying and being laughed at by the same world that applauds its own hypocrisy. You became your own warden, locking yourself inside the same cage others built for you. That's the paradox of pain. It tricks you into protecting what's destroying you. But even in that darkness, something ancient stirred. You couldn't name it yet, but it was there, a sound beneath the silence, a pulse beneath defeat. You didn't know it then, but every second of isolation was forging you. Every betrayal was stripping away illusions. Every scar was mapping your rebirth. The world thought it had broken you, but it didn't realize some souls can only be awakened by ruin. You wake up before the sun this time, not because you want to, but because something inside you refuses to sleep. There's no alarm, no applause, just that quiet, haunting hum in your chest, the kind that whispers enough, enough running, enough breaking, enough pretending you're powerless. The air feels different now, thicker, charged, like the world itself is holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do next. The floor beneath your feet is cold, but it grounds you, proof that you're still here, proof that not even the darkness could erase you. You remember the faces that doubted you, the ones that smiled when you fell. You remember how they looked at you, not with pity, but with certainty, like they'd seen your end coming long before you did. And maybe they had, but what they never saw was what failure does to someone like you. It doesn't kill you. It mutates you. It takes your softness and welds it into steel. It turns apologies into weapons and silence into strategy. You were naive once, mistaking kindness for weakness, trust for loyalty. But betrayal was your baptism. And now you've risen with fire in your blood. You used to move through life hoping to be understood. Now you move through it studying the patterns, the pauses between words, the tremor in their tone, the hunger behind their smiles. You've learned that the world doesn't reward the loudest voice. It bows to the calmest one in the storm. You no longer chase light, you command shadows. You no longer beg for peace. You build it piece by piece in the ruins of who you were. Discipline isn't a routine anymore, it's revenge. Every repetition, every hour alone, every ignored message is a quiet act of war. They won't understand it when they see you again. The calm in your eyes, the stillness in your movements. You'll look like a ghost they once knew but can't recognize anymore. You'll speak less, but when you do, they'll listen. Because something in your tone will carry the weight of 1,000 unspoken nights. You've entered that phase the ancients spoke of, when the wounded become watchful, and the watchful become unstoppable. There's no going back to the version of you that begged to be seen. That person died the night you stopped asking for permission. Now, even your silence carries intent. Even your footsteps have meaning. You don't rise for validation. You rise because the alternative is extinction. You've realized that the only way to control the chaos is to become colder than it, sharper than it, quieter than it. And in that stillness, something awakens, something ancient, something that's been waiting in the shadows for you to finally stop fearing your own reflection. You don't follow light anymore. You cast it, and for the first time, the darkness listens. The climb began in silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that hums with ghosts. You wake before dawn because pain doesn't wait for the sun. There's no applause here, no audience, just the echo of your breath and the weight of everything you lost. The world forgot your name, but the shadows remember. They watch as you move through the fog, rebuilding what betrayal tried to destroy. Every repetition, every cut, every scar. A quiet rebellion against the version of you that once begged for mercy. You stopped begging. You started building. The climb isn't heroic. It's brutal. It's slow. It's lonely. The ground beneath you feels like history itself, ancient, unmoving, judging. Yet each step presses deeper, carving your name into its silence. You've learned the language of endurance, the dialect of those who've suffered too long to explain it. You've stopped searching for shortcuts. You now understand that true strength doesn't shout. It whispers through discipline, through the refusal to break when no one's watching. You used to chase validation. Now you chase precision. Every move, every breath, every sacrifice, measured like a surgeon, cold, exact. You started seeing patterns others couldn't. Betrayal turned into strategy. Pain became architecture. You realize people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they negotiate with their limits. You stopped negotiating. The climb turned you into something different. not heartless, but harder to deceive. You've begun to see how power hides behind patience, how silence disarms the loud, how those who wait with discipline eventually consume those who burn too fast. Your stillness terrifies them now. You can see it in their eyes. They sense you've seen something they haven't. The nights stretch longer. The body ache is louder. But the voice inside no longer begs you to stop. It whispers again. You obey, not because it's easy, but because quitting would mean going blind again. You've walked through that blindness before, when every word felt like betrayal, when every promise rotted before it reached you. You remember those nights, the rain, the phone that never rang. That version of you is gone, buried under the miles of repetition and the ritual of self-confrontation. What rose in its place isn't pure or perfect. It's something ancient, a creature forged in rejection, moving through the dark without fear. Now when you move, the air bends slightly, as if acknowledging your presence. The shadows no longer mock you. They align, they obey. You've become the storm they used to warn you about, quiet, calculated, and absolute. The climb never ends, but that's no longer a curse. It's a covenant, because each step now carries a truth the world can't touch. That discipline is divine, that silence is power, and that every scar you wear is just another scripture written by the version of you who refused to die. You've walked through every kind of silence, those that suffocate, those that whisper lies, and the one that waits for your collapse. The world never saw what it took to keep breathing when your lungs were full of failure. They laughed when you vanished, thinking you were gone. But what they didn't know was that you weren't retreating. You were rebuilding in the dark. Every scar became a symbol, every betrayal a ritual. You learned to bleed without making a sound. The weak look for light to save them. You learned to see in the dark. You became fluent in pain, surgical with patience, and terrifyingly calm in the face of chaos. The ones who mocked your silence will never understand how a storm forms, quietly, unseen, until it arrives with the power to rewrite the sky. There was a moment when you felt the shift, not outside, but within. The same silence that used to bury you now obeyed you. You didn't beg for validation. You built your own throne out of broken promises. The people who left became ghosts, wandering through your memory, still trying to find the version of you they could control. But that person doesn't exist anymore. The new you doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't explain. You've turned the ache into armor, the doubt into fire. You've stopped running from the shadows because they were never chasing you. They were waiting for your command. You started moving differently. Your steps carried intent. Your words cut deeper, not because they were louder, but because they were earned. Power no longer felt like dominance. It felt like control. Cold, disciplined, unshakable control. You didn't need revenge anymore. You became the consequence. They tried to measure your worth with the same tools they used to break you, but you'd already transcended their scale. You became the mirror that forces others to confront what they fear in themselves. The silence you carry now isn't emptiness, it's precision. You've learned that mastery isn't about noise, it's about command. Every breath you take now feels deliberate, as if time itself hesitates before you move. When the moment came, the test, the confrontation, the truth, you didn't hesitate. You walked into it like you were born for it, because in a way, you were. Everything you lost had been rehearsing you for this. You didn't fight for recognition, you fought for redemption. And when it arrived, it wasn't grand or loud. It was quiet, absolute, inevitable. The kind of victory that doesn't scream, it hums. It resonates in the bones of those who doubted you. You stood there unshaken, while the world blinked and realized the shadows no longer moved on their own. They moved because of you. And in that stillness, in that impossible calm, you finally understood. Power was never something to take. It was something to become. You've stood in rooms where your name was nothing but an echo, where every glance carried the memory of your failure. You remember how they looked at you then, eyes sharp with doubt, voices dripping with pity, like you were something fragile. But the truth is, you were never fragile. You were unfinished. You walked through fire until your blood learned its rhythm, until silence became your ally and pain your translator. You didn't seek revenge on them. You became the reminder of what they could never endure. Now, when you enter a room, the air changes. The same silence that once mocked you now listen. The shadows no longer move until you do. You've learned to speak without words, to command without raising your voice. Power isn't loud, it's still. It's in your posture, your eyes, the way you no longer explain yourself. You don't chase acknowledgement anymore. You outgrew the need for witnesses. You are the storm they never saw forming. Before, you begged for belonging. Now you rule your solitude like a kingdom. You used to break at the thought of being alone. Now, solitude sharpens you. You've become dangerous in your calm. People feel it when they stand too close. The weight of someone who has already faced themselves and won. Betrayal no longer wounds you, it educates you. Lies no longer surprise you, they entertain you. You've learned to smile through chaos because you finally understand that peace is not found. It's built, brick by brick, scar by scar. There was a time you fought for validation. Now you move like an ancient symbol, something carved in stone, something older than applause. Every scar tells a prophecy, every silence holds a warning. The ones who doubted you will pretend they always believe. They will use your name as proof they once stood near greatness, forgetting how they turned their backs when you fell. You won't need to remind them, time will. That's how victory speaks. It doesn't shout, it echoes through everything that remains standing after the storm. You've mastered what most never will: restraint, the ability to win without being seen, to strike without leaving fingerprints. Your strength isn't in domination, it's in control. You've learned when to walk away, when to let fools drown in their noise. Power isn't in having the upper hand, it's in choosing not to use it. And when they finally look at you now, they sense something sacred, something untouchable, like they're standing before a mirror that reflects everything they've avoided becoming. You are no longer the one seeking light, you are the one it bends around. The shadows stop moving because they know who commands them now. You don't need to prove anything. Existence itself bends quietly in your favor. You rose not to be seen, but to never be forgotten. The world used to walk over you like you were made of glass. Every word broke something inside you. Every silence felt like judgment. You carried wounds you couldn't show, bleeding in the dark while pretending to be fine in the light. But pain changed its shape over time. What once crushed you became armor. What once silenced you became strategy. Now, when you speak, people don't just hear you, they listen. They feel something old and unexplainable stir in your voice, like you've walked through the ruins and came back with the fire of the forgotten gods. You learned that kindness without boundaries is just self-destruction wearing a smile. You stopped trying to save people who built their homes in chaos. You stopped explaining yourself to minds built to misunderstand you. Power wasn't in shouting louder, it was in staying silent long enough for others to expose themselves. You became what the world fears: a calm storm, the kind that doesn't announce its arrival but shifts everything when it does. They called it coldness, but it was clarity. You started seeing patterns, betrayal hidden in laughter, envy disguised as love. You no longer fight those shadows, you command them. There's a moment somewhere between loss and rebirth when something ancient inside you awakens. You felt it the night you realized nobody was coming to save you. That primal recognition that survival isn't given, it's taken. You started studying people like terrain, reading intentions in silence, hearing truth in what wasn't said. Every betrayal sharpened your intuition until your instincts became your weapon. They lied thinking you'd crumble. Instead, you memorized their moves. You built your strength in the places they left you to rot. You mastered the art of patience, waiting, observing, striking only when the noise fades. Now when you walk into a room, the energy changes, the air tightens. The same people who once overlooked you lower their voices, not out of respect, out of recognition. They feel the weight of someone who's been through fire and didn't turn to ash. You don't chase validation anymore, you attract silence. You don't demand loyalty. You detect deception before it breathes. You carry yourself like someone who's seen both the crown and the dagger, and learned that both cut just the same. Your peace is dangerous now, because it no longer depends on anyone's mercy. You stand where your ghosts once ruled. The shadows that used to whisper now stand still, watching. They know your story ended differently than they planned. You became the very thing they feared you would. The one who walks unbent, unbroken, unraidable. The quiet force that bends chaos into order. You didn't conquer the darkness, you became fluent in it. And now when the light touches you, even it seems to hesitate, as if realizing that it too belongs to you.